NERDSoul.
Why are you a black man in love? All right, welcome back, everyone. Another episode of Black Together, a walk in her shoes. I am Lady Lisa. I'm here with my sister, cousin, partner in crime, Madam Buddaphlai. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right, so we have something new, something I don't believe we've done before. I don't believe we've done a review of a video before. But I just my soul said you have to. We cannot let this pass as if it is right and accurate. So I was like, I must speak on this, but I must apologize publicly for doing this to you, Madam Buddaphlai. It was a lot. So we're going to jump into it. But before we do, what shoes do we have in our shoebox for such an occasion?
I'm so glad you asked. We have the Instep Strap Leather Ballet Flats because today we're going to discuss how this young lady stepped away from standards and slid right into chaos.
Ooh, it sounds like she should have on a tap shoe. Just slide and take John Glover on down the road.
All right, a pirouette. How about that?
You know what? The way she jumped from here to there and everywhere, you're right.
You know, she had to do kind of like a little low high step over that bar that's on the floor.
Can nobody get under that box up a cockroach in the salad that she's dealing with? I'm just saying.
Well, go ahead and fill the people in on what we're talking about.
Okay, so all right, everyone. So you know how you're just looking at videos, and of course they send you different videos that are similar to the videos you've been watching, and you kind of go down this deep dark rabbit hole of video. So that's kind of what happened, and I came across this video by a young lady or a lady named O Stefco. So O''Stepphco. There will actually be a link to the video below. And I've actually watched a couple of her videos at this point, but this one in particular is to be as brief as possible because Lord have mercy, she goes around the barn and through the barn, up and down the barn. But she's talking about how she got left by a gentleman on a date. He left her in the restaurant and contacted her later on to explain himself, but that's pretty much it. So she gives this whole long rundown about how she met him and all of these different circumstances. It's a lot. So we're going to kind of run down the foolishness in this whole thing. And again, I just couldn't let this pass because the way she goes through it, it makes it sound like she's right in this situation. And that her stance makes sense when in the end, she needs to be having a conversation with her own self.
Ding, ding. So
that's what and why we're covering this today. Yes. Anything you wanted to say about it before we jump in?
Let's just slide right on into the foolery, I guess.
All right. So she starts off, I'm gonna start here. She talks about dating in LA versus Texas. So from what I understand, she's from Texas. It seems like she's back and forth between LA and Texas, whatever. But she referred to dating in LA and how when she first came to LA, she got a good vibe about what dating would be like for her. She was positive about it because of a couple interactions that she had. One man who was a perfect stranger grabs her face. Okay, grabs her face with his bare, strange hands and tells her she's beautiful, and she sees this as a great thing. And so she's enthusiastic about her dating prospects. Okay. And then another man hollers at her from across the street. Hey girl, you look good. Whatever. She's like, it's gonna be dating here, it's gonna be great. And she's serious when she says this. She doesn't see this as a problem. Okay. This two issues from big issues from
COVID-laden hands.
COVID-laden hands. Right.
And holla, 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 holla from across the street. Gotcha.
But then she turned down the young man who approached her without touching her and said, "You're beautiful. Hey, I'm just out here hanging out, watching my friends skate." And I don't want to go watch your friends skate. Why not? You ain't doing nothing else. You know what I'm saying? He approached you in a nice way. Right? But anyway, whatever. I guess he need to lay hands on you. I don't know. So that to begin with was a little strange to me, because if a man approaches me and puts his hand on my back, you know what I mean, I'm kind of like, whoa, you don't know me, don't touch me, let alone come up to me and touch my face.
There's only a very small selection of people that can touch me in my face,
and that's people you know.
Yeah. And even that list is small. Like, you have to have given birth to me. I have to have given birth to you. We got to be married. Like, there's certain circumstances where the hands in the face work. But outside of that, like, nah, I'm not. I mean, whether it was pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, I'm not really trying to. Yeah, it's too many crevices that can be sorted through for you to be putting your hands in my face.
And on these LA streets, oh no, no. I mean, it's a higher chance that he could just be freshly homeless and still look all right. And I'm not saying that to knock down homeless people, but the number of homeless people here rises exponentially every day. And every day is the first day that somebody's homeless, right?
Right. And the dust got to settle at some point. Right.
So he can look fresh and brand new today.
Yes.
First day homeless. Next week, check in. Anyway. So then she talks about that for whatever reason. And so then she talks about how she was pretty much bar hopping. I mean, she went all around the barn, but she was bar hopping, her and some other friends. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm too conservative. But in my opinion, bar hopping in your late 30s, early 40s is a problem. It's a problem. She talked about how she was sleepy. Yes, your old behind is sleepy. That's what you do in your fresh little 20s when you just got energy for no reason. In your 30s, talking about we went to several. We better go to Applebee's and call it a night. You crazy? So anyway, so they're bar hopping. And so she ends up entertaining this gentleman, as she admits later on, which I already knew this. She admits later on she was intoxicated, and she says that she was sleepy. He was also intoxicated, and he was sleepy. And so that she ends up entertaining him, flirting with him, and ends up making out with him. Okay, on the same night. Okay. And I thought it was interesting too how she kept saying, oh, well, they wanted to go to another place, and yet they wanted to go to another place. They didn't want to go home. And she says it as if she had to do what they want to do. I mean, ma'am, there are Ubers and Lyfts. And before there were ever Ubers and Lyfts, there were taxis.
Right.
Go home.
Right.
I'm done, y'all. I'm tired. I had a great time. Y'all be safe. Good night. What are you trying to prove? You're not victimized and you're not trapped in this situation. So don't do that. You know. So that's how I felt about that. So anyway, and she talks about how her friend met was talking to the friend of the guy she was talking to. So it was two gentlemen and her and two other hold on, we're having an issue with sound. Let me see.
You're good now.
Okay, I'm good now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So there were two male friends together, and there were a total of three ladies. So she and one of her other friends ended up talking to the two gentlemen. But she keeps talking about how nice it was, to see the interaction between her friend and this other gentleman, how he was so nice to her and seemed so kind and this, that, and the other. So I'm like, you so worried about somebody else. I saw that as an issue. It seemed like there was
Mm-hmm.
some jealousy about their interaction. I'm like, well, if you picked a trifling dude, I mean, I don't know what to tell
Yep.
you. What are your thoughts on that so far?
Okay, so yeah, leading up to I found it interesting that the only things that she kept pointing out about this person is that he was 6'7", the shirt that he was wearing,
Yeah.
and that he was nice to her.
Yes.
Those were the only three things that she continued to say about him. And so my thought was, are those the qualifiers for him to be able to take up space and time, with you? Because she didn't say anything about really anything in regards to his character per se, or like, she was like, well, they laughed and flirted and stuff like that. But I mean, that's, I guess, part of being single and dating, is to, have playful banter and stuff like that. But she didn't really speak on anything that was substantial to say, this is really worth putting all of the energy and effort that she ended up putting into it.
Well, she was sleepy and intoxicated, so
Right.
you
And
get.
isn't that always a convenient thing to say? Like, you're intoxicated, but yet you can spend 45 minutes giving us a detail by detail explanation of
Mm,
everything that happened, including the wording on this man's shirt. So
because she
how
was
it's
offended by the shirt. The shirt
well,
offended her.
right. But you have total recall of everything that has happened. But
Mm-hmm.
intoxication is the justification for you doing what you're doing.
Right.
Yet at the same time, well, I'll save that for you when you get further into the whole conversation. But it's interesting to me how a lot of women will use being intoxicated as an excuse or a justification for them doing what it is that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
How about just stand on what it is that you want to do? You're a 40-plus-year-old woman. You saw this man, you found him attractive, you wanted to have a physical interaction with him, and that's what you did.
There you go.
Alcohol did not influence that decision at all. And the way that I know that this is true is that as we get through this review, it'll become clear that she did not need coaxing from libations. But go ahead.
But after watching this video, all of us gonna need coaxing from libation. Whew. Okay. So yeah, so they do the bar hopping thing. So then they exchange information, and so then it's the next day, and it's the whole will he call? So he did call her, but she says at the end of the call he made no definitive plans with her. It was sort of a let's get together, and he's like, all right, okay, whatever you want to do, whatever. Okay. So what she does is what I call making it happen, right? She picks a restaurant because he, quote, didn't care. Her words, not mine. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then he rejects her choice of restaurant. Nah, I don't want to go there. Let's go here. That's a problem. That's a problem. And the restaurant he chooses ends up being an hour drive for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she takes the hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if he knew that it was an hour drive for her, because I don't know if he knew where she lived, but she knew where she lived. I hope. I don't know what she knows. But first, you don't take issue with him rejecting where you chose, even though he said he didn't care. You didn't confront him about that. And then you take issue with the drive, but you take it. So you don't really take issue then, because you took the drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's two things. That's on you, right? That's on, so far, it's a whole lot on you, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm not finding really fault with him. I would label him initiating the call but not setting a date with you as a red flag, but that's for her to respond to, right? Because it goes back to what I say. A woman's only job is to make herself available if she wants to be, and to say yes and no. Right? And she's making things happen. You're out of line and you're out of order of things. Right? Since there was nothing to say yes or no to, what you contacted him for? He didn't ask you for a date.
Right.
You answered the phone call, you made yourself available because you wanted to make yourself available. But he did not make any plans with you, ma'am.
Right.
So what you doing? Anyway, she agrees to drive the whole hour, but throughout the story, she complains about the drive, which is annoying. And then, in my opinion, she talks about how this is like it seems to be a casual Mexican restaurant. And she complains about how she talks about how she just dolled herself up and she just did her makeup. She was dressed and she knew she looked good, but she knew she looked good because other women were looking at her. She didn't know she looked good because she knows she looked good. She knew she looked good because other women were looking at her. Like, ma'am, okay, I'm gonna need you to go in knowing you look good if nobody in the room looks at you.
Yes. Speak on it.
It could be a room of Stevie Wonders. What you gonna do?
There you go. Yeah.
So she complains, she goes on and on about how she's all dolled up and everything. And they might have been looking at her like, where did she think she was going? That might have been why they was looking at you. But then she complains about how overly casual he seems to be.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. That may have been a problem. He may have looked raggedy. I don't know. That would have been a problem for me if I saw it as ragged as she seemed to have described it. I would have taken issue with that. And honestly, I don't know how I would have handled that. I can't recall if that's ever happened to me. It's been a long time since I dated. So I don't, has that ever happened to you where somebody just showed up looking like they just rolled out the bed?
Not that I can recall. No.
Yeah, I can't recall either. And I honestly don't know how I would handle that. I really don't. Part of me feels like it may be a little overreactive to just up and leave because of how they're dressed. And part of me feels like I'd be offended by like that, but I wouldn't have done all of this anyway to get there. So
right.
I don't know.
And I think that to me, that's all part of the conversations that take place before you even go on a date, where you kind of learn and understand. Like, first of all, how did he had on a t-shirt when you met him, right? This is bar hopping, so this is a night out. He had on a t-shirt when you met him, and so he's going out with you, and he has on a t-shirt again. What indication was given that he would wear something other than a t-shirt?
Right. To a Mexican restaurant, to a chain, and she emphasizes the chain restaurant. I don't understand what problem women are having. I saw it on another video. Why do you have a problem with a chain restaurant?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Where is he supposed to take you, Ruth's Chris? He'll know you.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling to me. That I don't even know. People like everybody is focused on the wrong things.
Wrong
You
thing.
know, like if you pay you're clearly this particular woman paid more attention to where she was not even being taken, what she organized, as opposed to the the character or the signals that were being given by this man in
Absolutely.
order for you to be in the predicament that you're in right now.
Absolutely.
If you would have actually been paying attention as opposed to channeling your inner Samantha, as she said,
Let's
you
go
know.
back. Let's go back and talk about it's so y'all, it's so much that we couldn't fit it all in. We couldn't. Woo. Go back and talk about the Samantha part, if you would, please.
So, at the same time that the intoxication is the justification for her allowing her to get what did she say, like what she used some terminology with the being physical, mildly physical or something like that. She
I
said
don't
she was
know.
that they were mildly physical, I think is what she said. But
Mm.
anyway, so
But then she
even
showed two puppets tonguing each other down.
so okay, so you you're rendered defenseless to the point of being mildly physical with this man because of intoxication. However, at the same time, you say every now and then you channel your inner Samantha. And for those of you who don't know, Samantha is a character on Sex in the City, who was
Mm.
highly sexual, did not, was sexually fluid. She did exactly what she wanted. She was not repressed in any kind of way.
Anyway,
Very, very free with it. That was her character. And so she's saying she's channeling this person, but at the same time, she's intoxicated. And that's the disclaimer
right.
for the behavior. Like,
And
come on.
I didn't know this, but when you're in your 30s, you're highly horny. I'm like, what? Is this like just a rule? Where did you get this from?
Yeah. Yeah.
She does offer a statistic that between 27 and 35, women could find themselves, I guess, more horny because your body's like, hey, what we doing? Need to get this popping. That
Mhm.
makes sense. But ma'am, they said for 27 to 35, how you just gonna say anyway?
But she's over 30. She's in her 40s, isn't she? But
You know what?
anyway.
I don't know. She's late 30s, early 40s. Either way,
Okay.
too old for all this.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, we had to go back to that. And I also wanted to go back to the conversation when dude called her and she asked him what he does, and he said he owns businesses. And she immediately was suspicious. And I'm like, so people can't own businesses now, but she was like, it's the kind of businesses that I didn't think would make that kind of money for him to own a house. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
ma'am. And my
So
thing
now you're
is,
all in his pockets.
right, and if that's the case, if that's how you felt like, because she even said I felt like he was doing something illegal, which I'm like, that is highly inflammatory, but all
Yeah.
right. But if
Yeah.
that's how you feel, ma'am, then that means at at most you should continue having a phone conversation with this man,
Right.
get to know him, kind of get a better
Right.
feel for him. But no, you decide. After this, I'm gonna call him back and make sure I get a date to go out with him.
Right.
Ma'am,
Right.
you already have said you think he's doing something illegal.
Well, see, at that time, she was channeling her inner Dionne Warwick in the psychic hotline. See, she had switched. She had left Samantha, went right on to Dionne. Okay,
Well,
I swear, a mess.
a hot mess. All right. Okay. So that's going back a little bit. So all right. So back to the restaurant. She drives an hour to go see this man. She's thinking she's cute because women are looking at her, and he ain't cute. He just been thrown on something. She said it looked like he was in his pajamas. So that's where we are.
It was a shirt, gym shorts, black socks, and she was unsure if he had on slides or tennis shoes, but she
Right.
thinks it was tennis
And
shoes.
she keeps talking about how he made these t-shirts. I don't understand why that's a problem. I'm still taking issue with her having a problem with him having his own business and that he makes his own t-shirts. Why?
Right.
Anyway.
And that there's no way that, or she found it hard to believe that he generated that the type of money to have the things that he had through those businesses.
And
Whole lot of judgment and speculation going on.
Right. He said businesses. He didn't say I have a business. He said businesses. So, but okay. All righty. And at some point, in the midst of all of this, because she is rattling on and all over the place, she says out of her own face that the bar is on the floor. Meaning the bar in terms of her standard is on the floor. She says this out. I'm like, do you realize you said that out loud, ma'am? For us to hear. And she didn't edit it out.
No.
She says after that, the end. Cut. What else is there to talk about? Your bar is on the floor. Right. He could come and pimp slap you and everything would be all right because the bar is on the floor. Right?
Right. It's true.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. Okay. So you can't get mad at someone for treating you the way that you allow. If you admit that you basically have no standards, that the bar is on the ground, then the people that you allow in your life will be a reflection of that. And if you don't hold people to a standard, then you're going to have a whole lot of nonsense going on. She said that, she attracts a lot of chaotic people, but she rejects them. And I'm just like, Miss Ma'am, like, why do you think it is that you're magnetizing this type of energy to your life? See, we like to find ways to make ourselves the victim. All of these things are happening to us. All of these people are doing this to us. But energy attracts like energy. So there's something about you that's attracting this type of person. Doesn't mean that you deserve to be treated poorly because you have magnetized this type of person, but you need to be self-aware,
right,
and understand that there is a pattern and you're the only person that is in common. And so if you meet this person and the only criteria for you to get mildly physical by channeling your inner Samantha is that they're 6'7", have on a t-shirt that annoys you, and they're nice to you, well, you're going to end up showing up to a restaurant an hour away, all dolled up, looking at a dude with a t-shirt and some black socks, and sit at the table alone wondering where he went.
With some possible slides. The jury is still out on that. Yeah. But don't forget, though, she realized when they were in the car leaving one of the bars, she looked at him and realized that he was attractive. How do you realize somebody's attractive? And then say, hey, I realized you were attractive. I guess I'll tongue you down now. Ma'am.
No, what she realized was that he was actually giving her a little bit of attention. And because she was so starved for it, she pounced on this man. Let's just call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. He barely did anything whatsoever to earn any time, energy, effort, any of that. But because she was so starved for attention, because she is disappointed with her dating life or whatever, as soon as a fish nibbles on the line, she's all in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what you get.
Yeah. And this is
So
kind of a side note. She does have another video out claiming that she doesn't believe in black love, but this is a black man. So what you doing?
yep. Yep.
Okay.
She said she has a wide a diverse
Palette.
palette
Yeah, something
for
like that.
dating. Yeah,
Hmm.
she's dated everyone. You know, all types.
So everybody crazy except her.
Right.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Alrighty. So okay. So there
So we
they
had
are.
to so we got to get to the scenario in how he ended up leaving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
But I have to get to this stuff. So they're talking. They're there and they're talking. He asks her, why are you still single? Why hasn't anybody wifed you up? What's going on? Da, 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 right?
Mhm.
And she says to us, the audience listening, well, the question is why he didn't, marry either one of his baby mamas because he has two children. And he's like, that's the question. But she didn't ask him that question. She
Mhm.
poses it to us, but she
Mhm.
really should have asked him because that was a very valid question. You asking
Mhm.
me why I'm single, why are your baby mama single? Why you
Mhm.
ain't married either one of them, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I take issue with that, ma'am. You should have asked him that question because it's about I'm
Mhm.
not the one with kids and had a whole relationship and a whole person,
Right.
people with somebody else that I didn't marry. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
then he asks her, what is she looking for?
Yes, she's just looking for a pleasing dating experience.
No, that's not even what she said. She said she's looking for a regular date. I just want, I just want a regular single patty. Hold the onion, hold the pickle. Just regular. That's all. Because don't forget, the bar is on the floor.
Right, the bar is on the floor.
So
Yeah.
that goes in line with her dusty bar on the floor.
Yes, it
She
does.
she told this man when he asked her, because to me, regardless of what she has to say about him, those are two very valid questions. And in my
Mhm.
opinion, questions that show that they're interested in finding out if they're wasting their time or not.
Right. Right. Right.
He said, why you ain't married? And her answer was, things happen. That's what she told the man. Things happen.
Well, what kind of things, Miss Ma'am? Like what, I don't know. Some women do get bent out of shape by that question. I personally, I don't, like you said, I don't see anything wrong with it. It is a legitimate question. Why
Mhm.
are you single? I mean, you can word it however you want. What's your dating history? Like what was your last relationship like? Why
Yeah.
aren't you two not together? There's all different kinds of ways that you can get to that answer. But
Mhm.
I think that those that get offended by it, they have some kind of guilty conscience about or feel some type of way about the state of their singleness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And she said all she want is a regular date. That's all she want. I mean, so not long after this question and crazy answer, he gets a emergency phone call and just dips, like gets up and just dips, doesn't say anything to her, answers the call, and he's out. She said she's kind of watching, he's outside talking for a bit, then she doesn't see him anymore. So she starts thinking, okay, well, maybe he went to his car to sit down and take this call or whatever. And then she realizes this brother is gone.
Hmm.
He dips, right?
Hmm.
So supposedly his daughter broke her leg, arm, something, and he had to go. So
Hmm.
she's feeling a type of way, about how he dipped and didn't say anything to her. She had to pay the bill and kind of see herself home, and which she was gonna have to do anyway because it was an hour away. He won't gonna drive you there.
Right.
But so she's feeling all these types of ways. So she goes in about that, and then she goes into, because he doesn't know how this relates to how I felt abandoned in the past. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding a ding. That's what it comes down to. So now, if we take what he said at face value, that he did indeed have an emergency and had to go, see about his daughter, then you can't group this in with this other stuff.
Right.
But she's doing it anyway because it's all about what y'all did to me. I'm not taking any responsibility for the choices I made leading up to this. It's all about what you did to me. And it was just annoying. And she did say, how do we know that was real? And we don't know. And guess what? You ain't know either. You know why? Because you didn't take the time to get to know him.
Right. Well, and it's a trip to how, all of these things that she did out of order to lead up to this moment, and his actions are the problem.
Right.
So nowhere in this whole situation did he profess at any time that he wanted to court her, or that he was interested on a certain level to even inconvenience himself in the slightest bit.
Nope.
Because he didn't even ask there, or I should say, there wasn't even a conversation about, okay, I live in this city, you live in this city. What's a good meeting point halfway? And let's find somewhere so that it's fair. There was no conversation about that. So now you're mad that this person did not basically provide and protect, but he didn't show you any of that in the beginning.
Exactly.
So where does that expectation come from?
Right. You have to make good choices. She said that she has never had a relationship or dated anyone that made her feel safe. Well, ma'am, you have to choose someone who shows you he can provide safety.
Yes. And I'll tell you, this was years and years ago. Gosh. I went on a date, and it was, we were going to go to dinner and we were going to go bowling. And so the restaurant and the bowling alley were all part of this huge shopping center. And so we drove separately, met up at the restaurant. Dinner was good. The vibe was good. So we decided that we were going to ride together over to the bowling alley. Okay. Which it was in the same shopping center, but it really wouldn't have been like a comfortable walk because it was a pretty big shopping center. So we go up to his truck, and he gets in the car. So I'm standing outside. He gets in the car, puts his seatbelt on and everything, and then looks out the window and realizes that I'm standing there, because what I'm not about to do, if you're taking me out, I'm not opening my door. You're going to open my door. So I'm going to stand here. And one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to march your little happy behind over here and open my door, or I'm going to exit stage left, because I'm letting you know this is what's required in order for you to be in my space.
Come on.
Now, for some people, for some men, that they're not doing that. And that's fine. You not do that over there, because for me, that's what's going to happen. Okay. So I'm standing there, and he's looking at me through the window. And I just remember him, making a big deal about it. Like, I got, by the time I go over there and do all of this and all of this, blah, blah, blah. And, my thing is, like, I'm not gonna argue with you about a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
So if it's problematic to you to make sure that my safety is secured before you get into the car, because I don't know how you plan on keeping me safe. Somebody could have snatched me. Right. You would have to unbuckle your seatbelt, open the door, and come around before you could help me with anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but what I'm not going to do is sit here and try to tell you as a full grown man how that's unacceptable to me. So regardless of what our conversation was like in the restaurant, I'll bid you a good night. It was nice meeting you. And I went and got my behind in my car and drove off into the sunset, because I'm not going to negotiate what my standards are. I'm not going to lower my standards simply because, we had a good conversation at dinner,
Right.
or simply because, and I don't even remember what the guy looks like. I don't even remember his name or anything. But obviously there was an attraction
Right.
for us to even be on a date in the first place. So regardless of how attractive I thought you may have been, or what the conversation was like, if you're not willing to do one of the most basic things
Yeah.
to ensure my safety, I'm not wasting any time with you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you're ill suited for me.
Exactly.
You know?
That's exactly it. And the thing is, you made it clear what one of your standards was without even really opening your mouth. And to me, that's the epitome of class, because I've done the same thing. I've stood there just as nice and graciously and waited until the door was open. The difference was I think we were either going into or leaving out of a building. And I positioned myself, because as a lady, you have to
Yes.
position yourself so that he can open the door for you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I positioned myself as such. And I just kind of did this number where I like turn my head, to my right, as if to say, I need to see a hand reaching over here for this here handle.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And he finally he was a little slow, but he got the message, because he was a little bewildered, I think, at first, of why she ain't going through the door. And he finally got it. I didn't have to say a word. And after he did it, I smiled and I said, "Thank you." And I could see the bell. I could see it ding, the ding, ding. That's his heart. And the thing is, so that may not have been something he was accustomed to, but he had to make a decision in that moment. Is that something he was willing to do for me?
Right.
And he decided, I guess, in that moment, yes, I am. This ain't something I do, but this is something she obviously requires. And either I'm going to do it or I'm not. And and that's the beautiful thing, I think, that used to be about dating, is you can have this communication and this expression of standard and what's acceptable and what's not without saying a word.
Exactly.
Without
Everything
saying a
doesn't have to
word.
be a pop off. Yes.
It shouldn't be a pop off. You have to scream and holler and yell. It's not. You're not doing it right, quite honestly.
Yeah. That's real.
But anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but not really. As our tangents always are.
Yes. Well, and hopefully that's a life lesson to somebody. Hopefully
Yeah.
there's a young girl on here listening, and it may not be opening the door. You know what I mean? So for different strokes for different folks, but whatever the standard is, whatever the bar is, it shouldn't be dependent upon who the person is,
Right.
that you're dealing with. Standards are exactly that.
Right.
And they don't. I want to be careful in how I say this, because um, what I was going to say is standards aren't flexible, and so I want to make sure that I'm clear in what it is that I'm saying, because some standards can be unreasonable and ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Based on things that don't matter. So if you have a standard that you're only going to date men that are 6'5", well, good luck with that.
First of
That's
all,
not,
yeah.
that's not based on anything real, you know what I mean, or substantial. So, that type of so-called standard to me is pointless and only making your life harder. But when you're talking about respect and honor and decency and integrity and morality, when you're talking about things like that, it's really important to think about what type of person do you want in your space? What's acceptable to you and what's not acceptable to you? What are deal breakers? What would you be okay with your loved ones seeing, as far as the treatment of you, of you, or how that person acts or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. Like, these are the types of things that you should be asking yourself. Is are they displaying behavior of someone that you would want your children to emulate, whether
Right.
you have children now or future children? These are the types of things that you build standards on, not on, these dumb uh physical preferences
Right.
that have nothing to do with anything.
Right. And I absolutely agree. I always say, standards aren't, you're right, standards aren't flexible. Standards do just that, they stand.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get rid of a standard because it just doesn't make sense. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't negotiate a standard because
Mm-hmm.
that negates it being a standard. It's an
Right.
option,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a standard.
Right.
And I think, I totally agree with you. Before you start dating, men or women, you have to be clear and firm on what your standards are. Standards
Mm-hmm.
are the same thing as deal breakers. That's what a deal breaker is they're not meeting my standard and they must meet my standard. That's a deal breaker. But I think people get so caught up in they want to make it happen,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're willing to totally sacrifice their standards and
Yes.
rationalize why now this behavior is okay when going in it totally was not.
Yes.
you know
Mm-hmm.
so
So
go ahead.
yeah. Oh, so yeah. So one thing I did want to mention about oh Steph or whatever her name is, uh being left at the restaurant.
Mhm.
She made mention that, well, the daughter is 11 and it's just a broken leg. And I'm just thinking, as a parent, and this is this may rub some people the wrong way, but I'm just going to put this out there for people who are single, that are dating, that have children, and you're dating people who have children. I think that, not I think, I know that there is a disconnect there. Because when you become a parent, anyone who has children, when you become a parent, your level of patience, your level of understanding, your level of sacrifice
Mhm.
changes,
Mhm.
generally speaking, because, there are some, there's some trifling people all over the world, but generally speaking, becoming a parent changes you. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you were a horrible person before you had children. I think that when you don't have children, you are more self absorbed, because who else is there really to care for? You
Right.
can be the priority in your life because it's only you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so her making light of the the circumstance of her leg being broken and her being 11, as if her being 11 means that she can just strong arm it through a broken leg. I mean, a broken leg can make a grown man cry.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it could be life threatening depending on the situation. A broken leg, you have a major artery in your leg, break a bone, sever the artery, and you're done.
Yeah.
Like, that can actually happen. And so, for even though I do not condone him just leaving without having a conversation with her,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that definitely should have happened. At the same time, you know for her to make light of the injury so that she could have gotten what it was that she wanted, I don't think that that was the right move. You know what I
I
mean? It's
I
it's it's
agree.
not about whether the injury was serious enough in her eyes that it deemed a certain response. The bottom line is, he dipped off and he did not communicate with her as he should.
Mhm.
But I'm sure that part of that was just like with him not really following up with her, having any other conversation, is, well, she doesn't have any standards. Her bar is on the ground. She's not looking for anything but a date. He's already made out with her in her, channeling of Samantha. So what else is there? Like, what what has she created that would make him long for her or want to come back?
Right. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know if I believe there was a broken-legged daughter. I really don't know if I believe that.
Yeah.
I kind of am leaning toward, after you told him, you're not married because things happen and things don't work out, and that you were only looking for a regular date. He was out.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I believe. I
Yeah.
believe he was out and he was done. And
Yeah.
he found a way to dip. Either that, or there really was an emergency with his daughter and he just didn't think enough of you to say anything to you. That sounds harsh, but that's what I believe happened.
Yeah.
Because if he felt any type of connection with you, he would have, like she said, come back in and said, I am so sorry. I have an emergency. My daughter broke her leg. I will call you. I gotta go. My apologies.
Mm-hmm.
That don't take a lot if you
Yeah.
have any regard for the person that you're with.
Right.
But he didn't, and you didn't give him reason to.
Nope. He didn't give an indication that he did. She put herself on him, and it's basically just like, okay, like, I don't have anything else to do. But I'm not going to inconvenience myself in any way to see you. So you
Anyway,
can come to my territory and come to the restaurant that I want to come to, that I want to go to. And I'll come out of the house. I'm not even going to put any effort in trying to impress you with any particular dress or anything like that. I'm just going to show up.
yeah,
And that's just what it is.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And after all of that, she's still sitting there. She's still engaging in conversation, like all of that. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So, and now you're mad because he didn't give you the respect that you deserved of communication. Well, Miss Ma'am, sounds pretty consistent to me.
So the moral of the story is, get your bar up off the floor.
Yes, please.
I want to put that on the t-shirt.
Yes.
Get
Maybe he
your
can do it. He makes
You're right. Maybe he can do it. Give him a call and see if he want that business. But get your bar off the floor. She said it out of her mouth, Lord Father God Jesus.
She did. And one thing that I definitely wanted to point out is the comparison she made. She mentioned a friend
Mm-hmm.
who's no longer a friend, who, whenever they would go out, she could never enjoy herself because she always knew that the friend was going to drink too much and start throwing up, and she was
Mm-hmm.
going to have to take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she compared the men of her past, their energy, to the energy of that experience and having to basically be the caretaker and clean up the mess. So, if that is your point of reference, if that's the dynamic of all of your relationships, and once again, you're the only person that is in common with all of those scenarios, it's time for honest self reflection. You have to be willing to look at yourself,
Yeah.
because you can't improve your outcomes if you're not willing to look at what's really going on,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. It's
So
true. She needs to get some counseling.
she really does.
She really does need to get some counseling. And the thing is, she's so busy still dealing with the issues from her past relationships, past dates, past friendships, that she's not making good decisions going forward. And whatever someone else does that she interacts with now, she's already expecting them to do something that somebody else did in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so she groups them all together. And, again, if this dude really had an emergency with his daughter, it's not fair to group him in with these other men who left you.
Right.
It's a different circumstance. He could have handled it differently, but it's not like he was like, I'm just out, according to him. But again, we don't know, because even though she had red flags, she had doubts and thought he was doing something illegal, she didn't take the time to continue to have additional conversations to get a better understanding. She just
Mm-hmm.
said, look, I'm gonna make this thing happen right here.
Yep.
We going out.
Yep.
That's pretty much what she did. She shoved herself into his space and made
Mm-hmm.
that thing happen. And look at the outcome.
Yep.
Look at the outcome. And can we talk about how she don't talk? She gonna say she went through her tarot cards before the date. All at the end, right? All at the end. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know a lot about tarot cards, but then she talks about the tarot card she pulled was a tower, and that means it's something gonna fall down. Well, honey, you got that before the date.
Right.
So do you believe in the tarot cards? It's just I'm confused.
Yeah.
What is your
She's
guide?
confused.
What is your guide? Do you have a guide?
Yeah. She's confused. She doesn't have a guide, and I think that that's one of the things that is plaguing our community and the breakdown of our families is that um, we we walked away from the teachings of our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
We started trying to follow a European model, but there were too many societal things that kept the European model from being uh, a viable solution. And so then we just started making up stuff on the fly,
Yeah.
and we started uh believing in this lie about not needing a man and independence and this feminism nonsense, and we have worked ourselves right up out of the covering and protection of a husband.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like that basically is what has happened. And tradition is tradition because it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It works. And so I don't care what newfangled ideas that you have about the way the society should be run and all of this kind of stuff. Tradition works because it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not always easy when the way that is most beneficial for family structure is in conflict or is contradictory to what society says should happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always easy, but we have a blueprint for the family structure that has stood the test of time.
True.
And because we're trying to revise it ourselves in our limited understanding, we're getting the game all twisted. We're getting the game all twisted. Whether, back in the day, if a man wanted us, they had to come to our father and present a cow or a goat or something. They would have, and that's the equivalent of nowadays, like prove yourself to be worthy.
Right. Right. Or that's pretty much you proving that you are able to provide. If
Yes,
you own a cow, if you own a goat, that means you have something.
right.
You have
And not
something to
only that,
offer her
her.
and really to offer this family. Why should we allow you to have her?
Mm-hmm.
Can you take care of her? Because I'm taking
Yep.
care of her right now. Can you take it? I'm gonna hand her over to you. Can you provide for her? Do you have anything to offer? Are you about anything? Do you have a job? Do you have a I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
do you have a job? If you have a job, that means you should have money. All
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. I mean, it seems simplistic and old fashioned, but when you
Mm-hmm.
sit down and think about what it all means.
Yes. And not only the financial component for provision, but also sacrifice.
Mhm.
Because in those days, to give cattle or livestock of any kind, that is a sacrifice.
It is.
So what you're saying is not only am I willing to provide financially and I have the means to do so, I'm willing to sacrifice of myself in order to have this woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so if a man is willing to sacrifice of himself for that woman, that is the protection. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That is all part of the blueprint that we have. And then we are to honor our husbands and recognize, support, and respect their position as the leaders of the household.
Right.
And I know that's where Black women's minds start to shut off
Right. Because
because they're not about to listen to nobody.
right, because this is the thing though. What you're not gonna do is accept a husband who is not honorable or worthy of respect or worthy of you yielding to him and then complain about how he doesn't do any of these things you need him to do. Well,
Yes,
you agreed to marry him
yes,
without vetting him or with knowing that he fell short of all of these things and now you want to complain that he ain't none of those things.
yes. Very true. So very, very
I
true.
picked up a brownie and now I'm mad it's not a bag of chips.
Yep, that's true.
You picked it.
Yeah, you picked it. That's real. That's real. And that kind of, I remember one of our shows that we talked about submission,
Mm-hmm.
and how that has become like a curse word
Yeah, yeah.
to Black women, and
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times it is rooted in fear. They're afraid that at some point in surrendering completely to this man's leadership, that it's somehow going to be exploited.
Right.
you know and that all goes to the character of the person that you are choosing to align yourself with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's just what it is. And I'm not talking about like, you know we're all human,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all gonna fall short of everybody's expectations. Like that's just what it is. You know what I mean? Whether you're married, whether you're siblings, friends, whatever the case may be, there's gonna be times that you're disappointed with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's not what this is about. If you're dealing with somebody and you see that he has a hard time keeping a job, and then and as I'm saying this, I'm speaking to myself too, because hey, life experiences, a lot has happened in my 43 years. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? I entered into relationships with people who clearly showed red flags in areas, whether it was areas of finance or
Mm-hmm.
responsibility, aggressiveness, like whatever the case may be. And I decided to move forward in those relationships for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean that I deserved poor treatment. But what that means is that I have to hold a certain level of responsibility for allowing those things into my life, or dismissing the flags that I saw and continued moving forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the piece of it that's problematic to me. It's like you can be with whoever you want. You can choose whomever you want.
Right.
But in making that choice, if something goes wrong, you have to be willing to take up half of the responsibility of that, in the same way that you want to take all the credit when things go right.
Right. It's
You
true.
know?
It's true because two things can happen at the same time. He can be wrong for the way he's treating you, and you can be wrong for accepting the treatment.
It's true.
It's not a him against her.
Right.
It's a she takes responsibility and he takes responsibility, and the two of
Yes.
you come together and do better.
But yes, speak on it. I
That's
need you to
it.
preach. Need you to preach.
That's
That's
it.
right.
We've gotten into this. Well, it's all her. Nope, it's all him. It's not all anyone.
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't understand why that's so hard to understand. I really don't get it. And I say it all the time. Ain't nobody more responsible for you than you.
It's true. But see, it's easier to make the outside forces the problem, because then you don't have to look at yourself. Because once you recognize that there's something going on with you, now there's a requirement.
Mm,
Because you're gonna be convicted in your spirit. That thing gonna keep eating at you until you do something about it.
yeah,
So now you're called to action. So it has to be everybody else. Everybody is doing these things to me.
right.
So now I don't have to be responsible for my own life. And I'm gonna just go ahead and keep that ball on the ground.
So to wrap this up, this is what I'm going to say. I don't know if she will ever see this video. I don't know. But if this video happens to come her way, and she is willing to listen to this whole thing, I don't know. It's up to her. I would, in all seriousness, say that she, if she hasn't already, should seriously consider counseling um, to deal with whatever issue she has pertaining to past relationships, past hurt, her self-esteem, her standards or lack thereof, all of those things. And seriously take a look at her. And we mentioned before, you know, she seems to have this attitude of she does not believe in the concept of Black love, even though she grew up with Black parents and Black family members that have been married for decades. She still doesn't believe it. She believes that's something old school. That's not something that exists now. And I would say that if she took the time to get this counseling, to make some different and better choices, to set some standards and stick to them, she'd change her mind on that, because she'd have a whole different caliber of Black men that would approach her, that would date her, and that would court her. I guarantee you. That's just my 2 cents on it.
That's real. That's real.
So, anything else you wanted to add, Madam Buddaphlai?
I just mental health is important in the Black community. Please make sure you exercise your rights and your insurance to go and get therapy. Thanks, and have a great day.
Absolutely. So, as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things, but most of all, continue the conversation. Just a reminder to those who have heard and those who haven't, we are celebrating our 1-year anniversary of Black Together, Walking Her Shoes. And in celebration, we are having a live show on this coming Sunday. It is, let me get this right. It is 2 p.m.
24th.
The 24th, October 24th, Sunday, October 24th, 2 p.m. Eastern. No.
2 p.m. Pacific time.
There we go.
5 p.m. Eastern time.
There we go. All right. So we hope that you will join us, share this with someone else. If they have never listened to us, but you think they might be interested, join us. You know, we're just going to have another great conversation on another topic. We're going to talk about past shows and what's to come. We'll join in with everyone in the chat and have, you know, a conversation. We'll have some special guests. It's going to be a great time. We are grateful to everyone who has supported us and who has listened. And as always, we're grateful to NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform. And he will also be joining us for that live show. So get ready for that, because he has some opinions on a whole lot of stuff that we talk about. Yes. So again, thank you. And bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.